Okay. So yeah, I hadn't really planned this good enough, so my coffee wasn't ready in time. But now it is. Now I have my coffee and we can get started. So let's see if I have my... There it is. The Twitch chat window is up. Yes. Hello. It even works. Yes. So it's been over 3 months since I did this live streaming thing the last time, and I noticed, yeah, it had a bunch of things have happened, of course, since the last time. I'm employed by wolfSSH these days. I do curl things full time. And I haven't really had any good ideas of what to do for the live stream recently, and just the other day I decided I'd start with my with a new SSH backend in curl, and then I figured, well, what the heck, I could just show that a little bit on the live stream how I'm going to do that. So this is the live stream today. I'm gonna do some work on wolfSSH as a SSH backend. Not sure exactly how far I'll get today. It might become a bit tedious to watch, I don't know. And then we'll go back to check my branch for parallel transfers, maybe polish it up a little bit more, work on it. So we'll see. My branch for parallel transfers, that's parallel transfers for the curl tool, meaning, you know, run your curl command line and ask for download, upload of a bunch of files, and curl will do them in parallel at the same time instead of serially. Well, it will have eventually it will have the option to do them in parallel instead of serial. So, and I come quite far with that work. It doesn't really do anything in parallel yet, but I refactored the curl tool code to make it possible to do it all at once instead of one by one. So we might take a look at that depending on how things go with wolfSSH, and then we'll see. If you have questions, if I have if I do something weird, you ask and we can just play along and see where we go, where we end up. Well, the SSH stuff, that is, I should say, that is SCP and SFTP. Primarily then transfers of files over those two protocols. We called it an SSH backend because they're powered by the SSH. I mean, they go over the SSH protocol or through or something like that. And we already support two SSH backends for this, using libSSH and libSSH2. So this is just my new work on adding a third SSH library backend. And I cheated a little bit, you know, like the TV chefs, and I started by cloning wolfSSH yesterday from the GitHub repository. Where is the GitHub repository? So I have a bunch of windows, so I can get lost. You don't see exactly what I see on my screen, but okay. So I'm this is where I went yesterday, to the GitHub for wolfSSH, and I cloned this into my little source tree. And of course, here's my terminal for wolfSSH. It hasn't changed since yesterday, and I build it with this configure line. So wolfSSH, then I realized, uses the crypto from the wolfSSH uses crypto from wolfSSL, and I have a wolfSSL built from Git as well, but in this case I actually got a build error when I used it, so I had to rebuild my wolfSSL with this enable SSH option. So I rebuilt OpenSSL from Git again. I installed it, went to wolfSSH, and built that with this configure command line, and which I'm only showing you this because I had to point out to the configure script where my installation of wolfSSL is, my custom installation path. And when I did this, well, I can just show you. If I run my configure line in wolfSSH, it'll just do this. Blam. Done. Build. It's not very excessive. And install. And I install this in my custom path, which is build wolfSSH in my home directory. I don't know, I have this standard thing that all my custom build paths for different libraries, I put in just build the dash whatever library it is. So I have a whole selection here, as you can see. So wolfSSH is done here, and if I look in the lib library, lib directory, there they are. Not very good colors on this background in the console, but you get the point. It doesn't really matter. So now I'm going to start to... I haven't gone any further than this. I haven't done anything for curl to actually use this, know about this or anything. So I'm going to go to my curl direct source tree. I have this branch that I mentioned I'm working on, the parallel transfers. Let's leave that branch for now. I just want to make sure that I'm up to date with everything. Nobody has someone had committed something. Oh right, I hadn't updated since that. So yeah, I got the latest from Git, and I'll check out a little wolfSSH branch, or I create it based on master. So okay, nothing has changed. I have, as you can see, I have these tiny aliases for Git, so I have short commands for a bunch of different things, just because that's the way I like it. So first I'm going to make the build basics. I'm going to make sure that configure can find and use wolfSSH. They're too similar. I'm going to keep saying the wrong name. So I need to figure out exactly so I have a lot of chats going on in the background too, so if I go silent suddenly, I might be reading someone saying something, and if you're hearing weird background noises here or see me run off suddenly, it's because I have some workers here at the house just this very moment working on something here in outside. But they might need my attention or help at some point. Anyway, so I'm here in configure.ac, and yeah, we like configure hacking, right? That's lovely. So I'll start off by just copying how libSSH did it. where to look for wolfSSH. Path points to the wolfSSH when pass blah 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 with wolfSSH enable. Why are they in capital letters? They're not. They're not named like that. They're named like this. Okay. Well, first that's for basically for the adding the command line argument to configure. And now if enable libssh2, if enable libssh, and we'll add here. I'll just copy a little bit of. And here, if test opt wolfSSH. Okay, back up the pre-wolfSSH libraries. So there's just this sort of standard configure thing. Since we're going to muck around with some of these variables that are important for the build, we just store them before we change them around, and then we can restore them back after that if we need to, and sometimes we need. And coffee. So okay, I'm here adding configure stuff for wolfSSH. So in the wolfSSH, there's no package config thing here. Maybe I can just define there to see the tree. Right, no, there's a wolfSSH config. C flags, can't spell. Right, C flags and libs. Okay. Okay. I wonder if these days when I do stuff with the configure, I usually move around and copy a lot of things that I've already written before in configure, since the curl configure script is now pretty big, and we've done a lot of things already in it, so usually I don't have to invent a lot of new things. Or did I just ruin that? I bet sometimes I just talk too much and think too little, so when I just ruin things instead. Okay, if I start out like this, I can just check the lib wolfSSH for what? What do I check it for? Build wolf, include wolf SSH. Okay, I don't know anything about this API at all right now, which is a bit of a difficult starting point, but hey, I'm just closing my eyes and I dive in. So there's a wolfSSH in it with a capital I. And now they're drilling in my building, so now you might hear some wolfSSH, SSH, enabled wolfSSH if it's there. Here's just some random setup variables that are good for the build in general. So if I do this, and I have a little script in the curl root that just rebuilds configure and everything. So this is the minimum basics for the configure script. I'll just wolfSSH. It's the best. Okay, so if I then just try with wolfSSH, what will happen? I have a to-do list basically, or a to-do task on myself to make sure that we speed up the configure invocation, primarily by caching more things that I mean, configure has a caching concept that we don't really use properly. And of course, I'm looking for this. No, because it didn't find it, because we didn't expect it to find it, because it's in a custom path, so it wouldn't find it. I'm just going to look for checking for wolfSSH init in wolfSSH, and of course it can't find. So that makes sense. In our case, we know, or rather, there's an opt wolfSSH. That's the value given to the command line argument. I get lost. Not equals yes, because if it's yes, it's not a path, it's just the regular enable it. But if there's a path given to it, then I want to make sure that maybe I'll just wolf config is then in that path. And then we can do libs and C flags. C flags. Okay. Starting out a little bit complicated, these matters, but hey. Wolf config --libs. And since the libs one includes the the LD flags, I'm going to Options, package, version, C flags, libs. Right, since the libs are included, the LD flags and libs are mixed, so I'm going to set them in LD flags, and then I'm going to set CPP flags to C flags. And then we'll see what happens. So rebuild configure and rerun configure, and what happens then? I can just as well hit over to the log immediately, because it'll just fly by. Oh, right, I should have done it like this and build wolfSSH. Point out where the installation is. Try it again. I don't intend to spend a lot of time on making sure that this works exactly the way we want it to. But I wanted to get the build going so that I can actually start writing some code and build it and see that things build. I can't find wolfSSL, haha, because wolfSSL is in a different path that isn't set up like that. So maybe if I do it like this, LD flags, and then I sort of a complicated approach to build, but let's start out like that. Didn't work either. Couldn't find. There's no. Am I? Yes, I am. That was stupid. I shouldn't just override it. I should. I need to add the flags. Flaps. Yeah, thank you. This is an instant code review. Me and my sloppy typing again. Try many times. Okay. I think this has a slightly higher chance of working, but so can you fix the rest of the problems too while you're at it? Okay, fatal error. Right. It needs to include path to the wolfSSL directory as well. So not only does it need to link with the wolfSSL library, I need to point. Okay, this is getting. So build wolfSSL include. This is becoming a pretty nice, and all right. There it is. Nice command line to build, but let's save the polish for later. That didn't work either. Oh, it did work a little bit more. Ah, I know why. It actually says exactly why. It tries to run something built with these libraries, and it doesn't work since it's a shared library in a custom path. It doesn't find it when it runs. So in this case, I need to either first, let's do it like this. I'm going to my configure wolfSSH. I'm going to save a configure command line to build this because I'm going to mess up soon. Okay, so I have a stored command line. I need to either I set LD library path so that it'll find it in a different path, or I build with is it that? With a command line option to, that's the command line option I need. To build in a hard-coded path to my custom directory so that it'll find it. I'll show you. I'm going to do like this. Bip. Bip. Not right, but I need two directories because the wolfSSL library is also in a. I wonder if I can just. Now I'm getting a bit out of the limb here. I think I can do it like that. Can I? Let's see what happens. So here's why I save command lines to run this, so I can rerun it again without having to remember all the crappy details there. Okay, did that work? Seems to have gone further this time. SSH enabled. There it is. Okay. But nothing will. Yeah, something will probably happen if I build like that. And from before, I know that I shouldn't use all my cores when building because it'll make my video not good, but who cares? Okay, I have a build LDD. All right. Yeah, it's built statically. But okay. Now why is it built statically? No, it's not built statically. It's the shell script. Oh wait, never mind. Let's ignore that for now. I'm going to fill more with the build going forward. Now I'm going to dive in, and so here's the so we have an SSH. I can remove that one. SSH.c and an SSH libSSH.c, because they're different. And look at the sizes. This is in bytes, 100k, 80k. This is the newer one for the libSSH backend. Yeah, provided by Red Hat, and they shipped that to us a while ago. So I'm going to make a SSH. Nah, let's call it wolf. I wonder if that's going. Yeah, wolfSSH. Woohoo! And if I just insert this. Oh wow, a lot of things here that I don't know what we're going to do with or why. Yeah, there, just save it like that. And then I can add it to the build by just editing this wolfSSH.c. And here's my Emacs command line. Didn't do anything. Right, because back to the build command line, I should do enable debug, and I should enable maintainer mode. Those are sort of my default things when I build my regular. Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's disable shared as well. And I could do it in other things. Enable W-arrow, that's good because it makes it really picky with things. And I could do it in other. As you can see, I have a bunch of other command lines, building other configure things before. Okay. Well, that builds. I'll just make a header file as well because I know I'm going to need it. I want to make sure that it builds it. Doesn't do anything, of course, but there it is. Okay, so I have a build with a wolfSSH header source that doesn't do anything. So basically to add a protocol in curl, this is what needs to be there. A curl handler for each protocol. So in the SSH protocols we have SCP and we have SFTP. So these two structs are basically what we need, and then we're done. No, but we need to have the actual code that makes use or makes. These are primarily a set of callbacks, and if we just implement all these callbacks, we're pretty much done. Some of them are of course quite a lot of work. So the SSH implementation, the libSSH2 one that I wrote, it's a massive state machine really, so I think they support the same thing. I'm actually not sure exactly how the coverage is. libSSH and libSSH2 both pretty much support the same set of features, and I think that wolfSSH does too, and this is a little bit of an test also. So maybe I'll run into some problems with features and coverage or API what to say, things to wish for, but I figured that would also be a good lesson and feed that back to the wolfSSH team if so. So it's a little bit of get a feel for it. I'm not expecting me to come very far on this work today. This is me getting started, and I estimate that this will take me a bunch of more days going forward to actually get this to some, at least the first transfer getting done. So two of these handler structs, and of course these are callbacks, and I don't have them implemented here. So I'm going to start out doing just stubs for each of them. Basically, if I do this now, it'll just do it like this. I have a bunch of build failures because they don't exist. Variable has initializer but incomplete type, blah blah blah. Struct curl handler. Yeah, I will also have a incomplete set of include files. I'm pretty sure we can't go much in curl without including URL data.h, which is the primary include file in curl really. Okay, so then as you can see, then I get all of these build failures. They're just missing functions. Of course, I added, and I think it's in URL.c where handler, sorry, can't type, handler, here's a list. Here are these are all protocols that curl supports, and here's a list. You see if def and the pointers to structs, basically all of these handler structs, one for each protocol that we support. HTTP, FTP, FTPS, Telnet, Dict, LDAP, file, FTFTP, blah blah blah, and here that's SFTP and there's SCP. And I think I fixed this the other day. So there's a use. I didn't. Or was it called enable? Can't even remember what I call things. I didn't. Use blah blah. Okay. So if I do like this, or defined use wolfSSH like that, it should, well, in this case, add more build failures because they don't work either. But okay. Now, time to add some stubs for these functions, and I'm gonna run off for a second to help out. Okay. So I have workers here putting up some window covers in the room, just not here. So I have some noises in the background. You're probably gonna hear it, but okay. It makes it feel a little bit more industrial. So first function, SSH setup. Oh, I'm going to... So I'm just adding empty functions to start with. That since I now enabled picky compiler options, this will make my compiler instead complain about unused arguments, but that's at least one step forward. There, and if I build with this, blah blah, undeclared here, because SSH.h has it's an include file for all backends. How useful. So we'll just do if defined use wolfSSH SSH. That comment is really wrong. Gone. Add. So we get a lot of state variables for free, and we get some other magic, and ooh, okay. Undeclared here. Yep, okay. No return statement in function returning home. Oh, it's okay. Then I start to complain about things in my empty functions. That's a good step forward. So SSH connect, it's for connecting, an SSH connect procedure basically. Then after the TCP has connected, I need to connect some more. And in libSSH case, it looks like this. Set up things, a lot of things. Init the library, blah blah blah. So there, the bare minimum. Pum pum pum. But it'll of course complain about other things. Yes. Okay. There are wolfSSH examples, so I can just watch connect non-block SSH connect. Okay, so since, as I said, I don't know much about the API for wolfSSL, which make this a challenge. Okay, there's an init and there's a cleanup. They seem to be global. Hang on a second. I'm going to focus on making sure that we get the build back and get a version number out in the version string. That's what I'm going to do first. So I'm going to start out just removing the complaints for unused arguments, just like this. A lot of copy and paste programming just to start with, but I'm just want to get the basics there, and then it's a lot of fiddling then to get the real stuff going. Oops, wrong place. Parameter. Of course, I just pasted a lot of errors there, so let's see what I did wrong. Con done, code. Do face down. Defined but not used. Then let's remove it, because we might not use that. It wasn't a callback function. I wonder if I should use a better prefix to detect the callback functions. So it builds again, so then I have all the callbacks set up. And now I just want to make sure that how we do the version thing, SSH version probably. No, that was too simple. SSH version. And I got a coffee refill. It didn't say coffee break for nothing, right? So, how do we get the version number out of this? Version. There's no version. That's grep version. I like when there's a function to get the version number, not a define, because we don't know. I mean, it might be built with one version and then you upgrade the library to something else. It's not the same anymore, but in this case it looks like. And of course these are my colleagues at wolfSSL doing the wolfSSH library, so I can always ask them for missing API functions if we end up with that. And this looks like, yeah, I don't see any function returning this. Maybe I should grep the code. This, for example, I want to know. No library function. Or is there? Source internal version. Oh, it's just there. It's just used for the banner. So, version. I'll just add one of these instead. Use wolfSSH, and then there it is. wolfSSH. What does it say? What there it says? There, wolfSSH 131, and it claims to support the. Does it? Where are they? It doesn't claim to support SCP and SFTP, but it should, right? SSH. So where does it add the supported protocols? Well, should this? Oh, oops. But support protocols, I think that's just used. That isn't used for this internal. Does it? No, I think it's also in the protocols. Here are the protocols. SCP. Okay. I need to make a better generic thing for this, I think. Alright, I changed the configure script, so it needs to rerun configure, which is handy. That's why I use the enable maintainer mode for when I run my configure, because then it detects this and reruns it automatically, which is really handy, because otherwise you keep forgetting that and running the old things and blah blah blah. It has these nice little warnings now on LD flags shouldn't be used to set, but okay. I need to clean up the build at some point, but first let's make sure that the basics are there. And the summary in the end there now, yes. The configure summary, and this one says yes, supports SCP and SFTP. So that's the diff now. 318 lines added, 10 deleted, and nothing, no functionality has been done. But okay, I have the foundation now to get something started. Again, I'm going to, I wrote this entire file here, but I don't remember the details, so I'm going to just refresh my mind and see how we did it. Yeah, this is the SSH connect callback. It's for the protocol, the SSH protocol level connection thing, and it has a pointer to a boolean. So it's libcurl will keep calling this as long as it doesn't say that it's done. So it should just do it in a non-blocking manner until it is considered connected by some definition of connected, but that should be authenticated connection with an SSH server. Yeah, that's on SSH level, because there's no SFTP or SCP level connection, because those are just things done over SSH. So once you have an SSH connection, you are connected. So that's what this is. Can also compare with the other backend. I think that's it's probably wise to not use the same function names, just because for e-tags and stuff, so finding the function names are never, it's usually good to not have them the same, even though in this case it uses the same, right? We can use the same, but I'm not sure it's wise. Yes. So I'm adding a W prefix to them, and now I made a source line too long. And this is why I like my style check already when I build stuff. It complains already when I style mistakes already when I develop things, so I don't ever really break our code style while poking the things. So now they have different names. Yes, back to the connect. It sets up a connection per handle data, if not already. I think we need that. And data is our standard name for the struct holding the easy handle, which is transfer related data. Setup connection. Let's see what we do in setup connection. I see quite a similarity here. And it's very tempting to make this into a single function used by all three backends. But that would be... I will resist that temptation for now, and add a third. And add a third instead, because why not? Okay, and I'll actually add the W prefix here to make it not as much as of a not as much of a duplicate as it could have been otherwise, but declared static but never defined. Yes. Yeah, I agree that, but I should really. I mean, I have. This is the third SSH library I'm working on, and now suddenly there are not just two different ones, right? Before we had two, and now it's three. So now it's really a system of SSH backends. So now I think I should do something better to make sure that we get some infrastructure to handle different SSH backends. So maybe I will move them into a different subdirectory as we have for authentications and for TLS and for quick libraries. So maybe there should be a vSSH directory with SSH backends, and then I could have a more generic SSH stuff in a generic place. So yes, I definitely think that I should refactor this, but yes, I think it's a different project. Or maybe I can get to that, but I want to get something going first, because I'm not sure exactly how fast this will happen or where we will go with this, or maybe I will run into some larger problems before this actually starts to work. So I will certainly have a reason to go back and improve things. So these function pointers, they are setting up the function used for receiving and sending data over for the transfer. So when we're setting up connections, we're just pointing them to another function than the default ones, another set of functions, and then we need to implement those. And in the SSH2 case, we have this fancy debug variable or defined to do more magic. I think we can wait with that until I need it. But then it starts a session, and it has known hosts, and it's at debug level, and then it switches, or it starts the state machine, the SSH state machine on this state. I think I'm going to try to use the same states in this SSH implementation as well. I think the libSSH, both the other state machines for the other SSH libraries, they use the same states. So they are very similar in style and layout, so it's easy to, well, maybe not easy, but they are familiar. If you've checked out one, you can check out the other, and they look almost the same, or they look similar, so it's easier to debug one to debug the other. Let's start with this SSH session. It's like this. It's of course not named like that in wolfSSH. But the other backends have SSH session, whatever that is in wolfSSL speak. Session. It's a wolfSSH pointer. Yeah, most protocols have state machines, but I would say that the state machines is the modern way of doing things since curl, since modern basically since the last decade or something. Since pretty much everything except HTTP they have a lot of states, and since we want to do everything non-blocking, we have to know where we are in the in the communication in the protocol all the time. So we need to have it a state machine that can be paused or aborted at all times and then come back when we have more data. So we really need to implement all protocols as state machines to make sure that we maintain non-blocking, and we need to be non-blocking to support everything internally. So we can violate the non-blockingness if we really need to, but that really ruins the API and ruins things for the applications. So yes, they need to be state machines that also then just act on the data that we have and then return back when we don't have data, and then come back again when we have more, and back and forth until we stop or we're done with the transfer. So wolfSSH session functions, just a new context functions. So there's a context and there's a session, and there's a worker and there's a set. So I had this example. Jesus, can't even remember what I it's actually much harder to talk and develop at the same time, because I talk too much and then I suddenly don't remember what I said. And so back in the here, there's this. It's not session in it because that's not the name. It's wolfSSH new, maybe. But right, and it needs a context pointer. So pretty much like this. Where's the SSH pointer coming from? We need this struct as well. Yeah, I agree that it gets easier over time, and I've actually I think I'm actually starting to get better at it since I've done some live streaming, and I also understand that live streaming is really boring if I don't talk at the same time and just sitting here and click things, especially since you don't always figure out what I'm typing and clicking and doing. So everything is much better if I actually talk and say what I do at the same time I do them. But maybe it's also the fact that I've gotten accustomed to just sit here alone and work on my own, becoming a person, not on my own, all alone. So okay, here I needed the this one because I need a context first, and the context is like that. I think I need a context per connection. Does it make sense? Maybe. Let's call it context, and then I'm guessing here now. Context new byte void pointer. Back to the example, how are they doing a context endpoint? Oh, it defines what we are, and we are a client. So that looks easy enough. And then no arrow code checking at all right now. I'm sure that's a stupid thing. Well, if not, failed in it. Is that a good return code? Might be. Fail. No wolf SSH context. No wolfSSH session. No. I need a session. That's the session, and I need a wolf con. CTX. Wolf CTX. CTX. And let's see how this builds. Didn't build. Conkeep, I did some mistake. Conkeep, no. Connect.h. This is expected. I cut out all the include files, the originally. So I need to include files to get the support functions that from within libcurl. Failf, yes, that too. Used but never defined. All right. Let's see them then. Here they are. Let's copy that from the libSSH2 code. And I'm going to make sure that I also see what people are writing in the curl chat on IRC. And not too interesting right now. Boom. And of course, these receive and send functions are generic for all protocols. So these the prototypes here, they work for all protocols. So in some cases, like most protocols, they don't care about the sock index. Sock index is basically made for FTP, since FTP uses 2 different sockets for doing transfers. So let's blindly just add some code that does SCP. No SCP there. SFTP. Stream send. That looks like what we need. So SF, it helps to know a little bit about these protocols, and the SSH protocols are I'm not sure what words to use for them, but they're a bit messy. The SFTP is more defined than SCP. So an SFTP is more made to do files, is more file system like. So you send instructions, send packets of things, and you have more, here's 32K of data at this offset for this file, blah blah blah. So it's a lot of different small packages, and you ask for different packets. And while SCP is more of a Wild West style, you send a command to the other side and say, run this command, and I'll run something in my end, and whatever you output in your end, I'll just feed into my end. And that is how you do SCP. So SCP basically demands that you can support the SCP command remotely, which is a stretch because a lot of implementations don't. So SCP is not at all as portable as SFTP. But SCP has the advantage that it's just a byte stream. Send me everything for, until you're done. So that's much easier to do, straightforward, get a lot of data over in one direction. While SFTP then is a lot of send me this packet, this packet, this packet, this packet, this packet, this packet in a very long stream, and it's you ask for a packet and you get a response back. So you have this ping pong thing. So to get the ping pong going in an efficient way, you have to have a lot of outgoing packets while waiting for the incoming packets. So basically, it's the pipelining dilemma. So, and since then there's no actual SCP protocol, that's just SCP commands. So therefore, an SSH library, they don't have any SCP functions really. They have functions to issue commands over a channel. Channel being a separate logical stream through the SSH connection, since you can have many independent ones multiplexed over the same connection. So therefore, SCP, we can probably wait with SCP stuff. And focus first on SFTP, because SFTP then is more controlled, more standardized, and will have an API that basically just works with SFTP. Hang on. Unused con. So let's focus on the SFTP, send and receive. Copy from libSSH2. Bam. Oh, wolfSFTP.h. Just a header file. Get put. Okay, but that I know there was an example for SFTP client. Complicated. Back to wolfSSH.s.c. It's always annoying when an include file violates the curl strict compiler options like this, because it and why did I have to use that? Okay, so we set up this connection, connect. I'm going back to the connect phase instead. It seems that I might be more clever to do things in the right order here then. So in the comparing to in the SSH connect, and this is a function then called by curl all the time until it actually connects. Or does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because done. But it does. Let's see. Well, I'm not sure. The SSH backends are, they don't have any. They're not made to support a proper, backend set of backends. They don't have any generic place for generic SSH code. They're all separate in separate files. So right now there will be some amount of duplication with more or less generic things. There's a generic SSH header, which is for generic, which has ifdefs for the different backends. But going forward, I think there should be a more generic SSH file and then specific code for the different libraries. But right now, there's really no home for generic code. So this is how it runs the state machine. But I don't think I need to do it like that with wolfSSH. But I will kick off the state machine in the same way. So I will mimic the state machine logic like this. I have a function that sets the state, and I'll mimic that way too. I don't actually need to have a state, set the state with a function, because it's just a variable. But I've learned since doing other state machines that it's really handy to have a function that sets the state, because it makes it easier for debugging. So you can have a logging for setting specific states and exactly where the state is set by whom, and so on. So I'll keep using that same approach here as well. And the debug version will say from which state it changes and to what change it goes, and for so on. SFTP. It's actually wrong, but okay. Okay, I can I'll switch back on my strict thing here then and remove enable W error. I think I'll complain to my colleagues about using that thing that isn't C90 compatible. But I don't know. I think that is probably too late now. I think that's part of the API. So now it's just a warning, which makes things a little bit easier. State. I'll copy the state machine. Blah blah blah. Okay. Ah. Call repeatedly until done. Right, there it is. My version of it. So blah 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 blah. Okay, I'll better get rid of those warnings because they get in the way. nested external declaration. State max. Well, I didn't have that. I don't have that copied, so I'll just copy the pretty much the beginning of it, since that's the beginning of the state machine. Like that. I'm gonna do a break. So I need that state thing as well. I'm not sure I have that. State. It's a generic state. Yeah, I have the state. And there's some SSH specific state as well, but I can ignore that. I don't need SSH. Okay. Wrong. Wolf. Okay, I don't know what kind of return code we should have from there, but okay. Okay, I don't think we need to compile a warning for every state we don't check. Invalid class, storage class for function. Shadows are global. What? Incomplete function. While so the state machine here, we are connected. We have a state session and everything. Next state, actual code, set blocking. Do I need to do it like that? Seems unnecessary, but I'm going to anyway, just to get us going. Back to the example here. It goes to startup, check host key, auth list. Right, we have connected and we're connected, but we're not really authenticated. That is probably done separately, even with wolfSSH. Gonna check. It makes a context like we're doing, and it should look at this. Set user auth. That looks like something we want to do. Set user. Callback user auth. We want to do that, but okay. SIG handler, we might want to do that. We have a one. Set default path. Set user auth context. If we have a password. Oh, that's probably for password authentication, right? So that's user public key check, public key check context, username, set file descriptor. That's a good thing to do for us. And then it does SFTP connect. Oh no, it does a non-block. We can also do like this. Just isn't it stop? Right. Save the startup and then we go to stop. And at stop, that's just to stop the state machine. So this way it doesn't do anything. It'll just change state twice and do nothing. And stop. That break is wrong. Set SSH. That's a session, right? Yes. And the socket file descriptor, which is also not an ideal API because it uses an int there apparently, and you know that is bad on 64-bit Windows because it's not an int there. It's a socket, and socket is not 32-bit, and int is 32-bit. So int, no good. I'll put that in my list of complaints. No, let's call it feedback. Returns an int. This is really complicated. Returning errors when the error is returned from a third-party library. It's difficult. Can't. I suppose, yeah, it sets, in the libSSH2 stuff, it sets it as non-blocking. I wonder if TCP set non-blocking, then basically just the, it sounds, by the sound of it, it's setting the TCP socket non-blocking, which we already do. We set that, and we do the non-blocking connect here. So what are our states? SFTP in. Okay. Well, it first makes. Here are all the states in the SSH backend. So we don't need to go through them all. We just need to make sure that we start in init. We go through this, and we should go through the authentication and then init SFTP if we're doing SFTP. Oh, it has a get error. So in the SFTP handler, here's for the SFTP, we have a we use the same connection function. That is fine, I guess. It's a bit funny what we put in the state machine and what we could just put in the connect function. I don't see any need for calling that state machine right there. We're inited. No, sorry. I'm stupid. We were I need to init the state machine, but it shouldn't do much. Can just as well set done to true as well. Should just init stuff. And then go, and then set it to stop. Yes. That is what it should do, and it does now. So it doesn't do anything. back to the example, it makes a start out with a connect, SFTP connect. So let's pretend we don't need any authentication, just to get some stuff done first. We can always go back. So I want to do like this. If we got here and we used SFTP, then we switch to another state, which is the SFTP init. Blah 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 blah. Okay, then it switches to SFTP init, and then I can look at the example code over here. It makes it inits the that's this session. It's in the connection. The states are all prefixed with SSH, so I need to prefix them correctly. And I have an RC variable. If RC return curl ESH. I need to go back and fix return codes afterwards, but get started first. Don't need that pointer yet. So we allocate the data. We have data both in the connection and in the transfer, and they're separated then by where the data belongs. Is it in the connection or is it in the transfer? That is always a tricky situation, and juggling and getting things in the right place. I usually get that wrong a few times before I get it right. Here's the libSH2 case. Right, it just does connect. And if it's not success, we need to do it again until it is a success. So okay, not that's the stupid check. If our RC isn't W, no, if it is, right, if it is want read or want write, that's the non-blocking case, or that's the blocking case that would have blocked. Blop, 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 blop. So and else if RC is WS success, that's the successful case, and then we'll just switch to stop, and we're done. The data point will be set to true if the returns E again. So yeah, this is this case. Block equals true. The drilling in my wall again over here on my right, if you can hear it. It makes it more of an industrial feeling here. It makes me not feel as lonely. Okay, so if we connect and it blocks, then we return, and I said it blocked. If it returns success, we're done. And it didn't block. And if it returns something else, it was an error. Does that build? Yeah, some unused variables. Let's remove that for now. I can remove these warnings as well. Don't use that. And write is used uninitialized. Okay. What's wrong with this? Okay, I wonder if I need to enable SFTP support. Do I? I do. So back to the wolfSSH, build my configure prefix. It's okay, that's also to do then. I'll just do wolfSSH, a little markdown here, just for things to remember. Support check for SFTP enabled in library. Check. So there, just to so I will rebuild wolfSSH, then again SCP, SFTP. I don't care about TCP/IP forwarding examples. I don't need to build them, but okay, I can switch them off just to make my build a little bit faster. Because it feels like I'm going to do this more times. Okay, so wolfSSH, and that started out really nice, or not as nice. Ooh. Okay. It looks like an SCP thing because it says. Since I'm not doing SCP, just start it without. I'm just gonna see if I can get away from the error. I couldn't. Well, that's just one tiny little error, but okay. Haha. Wait. API feedback. C90 warning in header file. Using int for socket doesn't work for Win64. Oh. Okay. Let's dig in and dive in and see what we can do. wolfSFTP. Let's see. Line 26. Oh, that's just including the header thing. Line 22. Specified bound 256 equals destination size. Yeah, what's this? Hey you. That's an excellent warning. Since string copy at the most, if there is no null, so it might actually not this is a bug in wolfSFTP. Yes, it is. So let's add a new section. Bugs. wolfSFTP line 922 makes a string copy 1 byte too long. Can miss the zero. Termination. There. So, excellent warning there from GCC. So it removed. Okay. Let's enable SCP again and see what it says. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it has the same problem on another place, I bet. Huh. Well, I shouldn't say that this is a bug because I haven't analyzed it further, but again, now I'm primarily looking to get rid of the Depend on the length of the source argument. Yeah, that seems stupid. It does, yes. What it should be, size of buff -1, shouldn't it? Copy to value. And this is again output truncated before terminating null, copying as many bytes from a string as its length. But in this case I don't see the error. Length computed here makes a strillen on the first one. String copy is really not a function that is nice to use because of its how it works. And since it's either misses the 0 byte at the end or it pads the destination with zeros, which is also an overhead. So it's it rarely does exactly what you want or need. Usually it does something not ideal. So how do I fix this little thing? Length computed here. So value becomes a pointer. Or is null. And value SZ is, well, it's certainly smaller than the destination. No, I mean the value, the number is smaller than that will fit in the destination. So I don't see it overriding anything. I don't want to spend time on this. Can I work around this? Yes, I could. How annoying. Okay. Did I yeah, I mentioned that then. Bugs, blah blah blah. SCP something. Strun copy 2. And rebuild. Now I'm back in the curl directory. You mean red switches on my keyboard? What's the red switch? And yeah, now it built. Now it found the SFTP function here. That's the one I wanted to. I wanted to make sure that the connect. I'm not sure exactly how this works. I need to remind myself. In protocol connect. I just have to comment that we, since we started, we opened up the new bug bounty for curl this week. You know, now you can actually get cash rewards for finding security problems in curl. But we're focusing the bug bounty on actual security problems in the curl code, right? If you find problems in the tool or the library that is a security vulnerability. We've had many in the past. We'll fix them as soon as we can. And we started now the new bug bounty this week. And right now I got the third report that our wiki is world editable. So anyone can actually edit the wiki, which in my little world is sort of the point with the wiki. So I'm not sure why we keep getting that report. I find it kind of amusing. Port what to Python? Why would I port anything to Python? Isn't that sort of an oxymoron? You don't port things to Python. Python is already there. They can already do things with Python if you want to. Curl is not Python. Curl is plain C, and it's going to remain C for the foreseeable future. So I wanted to find this. The protocol, the callback for doing the connect, this connect, is called connect it. Yes. I wanted to. Yes, foreseeable. Yeah, exactly. There are bindings for pretty much any language you can imagine, so you can use libcurl from anything. And actually there are quite a few users using it from Python too, because using PyCurl from Python is probably the fastest way you can do file transfers from within Python. I mean, you can use the Python code too, but that's certainly not going to be as fast as using PyCurl. And you can pretty easily verify that by just making sure that you run a Python thing and then a curl thing. I've actually run performance tests with the HTTPy tool, which is a sort of a curl command line competitor written in Python, and just try that and then try curl and see for yourself if you can find any speed differences in how in just plain network transfers. But of course, that's usually not what you might care about. Protocol done. Yeah, I'm thinking what I'm sitting here, why I'm going here back and forth is because this connect call back that I'm thinking this might not work to be called over and over because it sets back the state machine to init every time it gets called. So, or maybe it will. So now then, what happens if I invoke curl, I do an SFTP. I mean, this won't work. I have an SFTP server, so that for it, an unknown option. Because I have probably and now it's time to bite the bullet. If defined use libSSH2 or defined use libSSH or defined use wolfSSH, any of those, define use SSH, fun times, and then if def use SSH, much nicer and much faster fix. Let's see if that works. Right, because I probably have the same. There we have it. This same pattern on multiple places. So I assume I will get some other warnings, maybe. Or maybe not. Well, I got that warning. It seems to say that. So what happens then? Poof! Pretty good, at least. Now it starts to do something. It uses port 22. I'm gonna help out over here. Hang on a second. Yeah, I'm drilling in my wall again on the other window. So yeah, I have these cliffhangers, but I'm not sure how exciting this is right now. Oh, uh, as you can see in my terminal window here, this is just the debug output then for the state machine for the SFTP starting. Then it goes to SFTP init and then return error. Why does it return an error? I suppose because it got all the way. Well, I can do it like this and info f. Right. Now this because I don't do authentication, so it will never connect here. It'll come here and return an error. Connect error number info f. And now I don't have data. Oh right, I don't have data. The data pointer. That's how it get it. And then I can just try it again, and then we can see error minus 1001. And I shouldn't do new line. Okay. Buh. I think I'm going to create some sort of dummy user here on my SFTP server just to make sure I have something to work with. Let me just answer to the bug bounty report that the wiki is editable for the entire world. Yeah, and the good thing I already made a there are some repositories that are world editable. They're not world editable. Close report. Not applicable. And I hate it when they also have to they have to prove it that they can edit the wiki by adding some crap in my wiki. My wiki, our wiki. Like, look at this. I'll show you. They've proven that they can edit it. Amazing. It makes me tempted to report them to. Yes, we know it's an editable wiki. There's my I'm just gonna detour into my build here. Yeah, the FreeBSD build failed, one of them. I'm gonna rerun it. Oh, and Travis failed too. The coverage build for Travis failed, and I know I have this suspicion where. Not here, even further down, going further. It does a lot of builds, and then it will do a few more builds or tests, and here I will see torture tests. Which torture test failed there? Number 10. So, okay. Let's detour into... Take a little detour here into parallel builds, just because I want to get that going. And I'm going to, like this, I already created my local branch here, wolfSSH initial work, just to get it committed. And then I'm going to, oh, not master, I'm going to check back their parallel transfers. They differ. I'm going to rebase. I had some fix-ups. I'm going to fix up those. Boom. So here, this is my parallel transfers branch. Blah, 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 blah. I don't think you know what you're talking about, GFSK, but that's okay. We can all have our different opinions of what's good and what's bad. And what's good is that you can use what you want and not use what you don't want. So the torture tests are fun. So I'm gonna rebuild my code here and then run the torture test on number 10, and I'm pretty sure I can figure out what this is. The torture test just runs, first it runs, I'm going to show you again in my browser. First it runs the test case normally, and we have an instrumentation on all, basically all memory allocations and a bunch of other functions, and it counts them, and it counts 118 calls to that kind of function. And then it runs the test again at 118 times, and for each iteration it'll make one of those calls fail, and if if it ever then leaks memory, that's a bug in one of the error situations. So in this case, when this malloc on this source code line failed, it leaked memory, 15 bytes. So my job then is to go back and make sure that we don't do that. So distracted. Okay, where am I? Back to the code. Back to Emacs. Saving the SSH for a second. URL glob. Okay, and I'm gonna build the test suite too for my parallel transfers. So, and running a torture test is really easy if you have everything built like this. It requires that you actually build with configure enable debug, because it instruments the code, so it does some funky defines of the functions internally to instead use our own debug functions, and they logs they log a lot of. It says 117 for me. It says 118 on the build, but it depends on build conditions too. So the parallel build changes the command line tool code quite a lot, actually, since it doesn't actually do any parallel transfers yet, but I've changed all the code to make sure that all the transfers that the command line tool does are more independent than before, so they set up their own transfers independently and without the independent curl handles and everything. And now it still makes them one by one, but the foundation is there to make them all at once, or maybe not all at once, but a bunch of them at once. But I want to make sure that everything, all the current use cases still work exactly as they're supposed to do. And here we see then, I wanted to see this operate on line 755. Here's the function, upload file, and which tool URL glob 594. Yeah, so it returned, in this case we have a leak. It returns that pointer and then it fails at some point further down, and it doesn't free it enough. Let me see, that's number 37. Let's see if I can reproduce that easily, just immediately at once. Boom. So this is fun, I can do it. I'm running, and this is where it returns failure to memory allocation in curl open. So that is the one that is actually it doesn't. Didn't I already fix this? No, because this is the file, the upload file, and we haven't done that part. So at this point, if it fails here, we also need to free upload file. I'm pretty sure. rebuild, rerun, torture, okay. It's okay, we fixed the memory leak. Well, it wasn't really a memory leak because that would, in the fail path, it would return and free it anyway. But fix up torture leak. Since I rebased it already anyway, so I need to force push, so I can just as well fix it up all the way through and push a new one. Force push to my parallel transfers branch, and just make sure that there it is, my branch, and it started again to rebuild stuff. It'll take a good while until it gets anywhere there. Yeah, I think force push is pretty good when doing things in a PR branch like this, especially in one of these more experimental things where I tend to do a lot of fixing up things as I go along. So and then I can keep it rebased according to the main branch. So yes, I think it's force pushing is pretty good in that sort of situation. Okay, that is the parallel branch again. I mentioned it before, so there it is. I have a little checklist at the top here of the PR 3804. So I have some outstanding checkboxes here that I want to get done before I consider merging, and this won't be merged until what's the tag? Next feature window. So there's a new feature and a pretty big code chunk. It's, as you can see up here in the corner, it's 890 lines added, 766 removed. So I won't merge it until after the next pending release anyway, which should happen on May 22nd. So I have a little time. I have some, make sure the torture tests are fine. That's what I'm working on. And then I'm going to offer the ability to run them in parallel. So I'm going to add an option to do parallel transfers from the command line tool. And I think I'll do this. Implement a progress bar for multiple concurrent transfers. It is an interesting challenge to do the progress bar. What if you ask to transfer 48 files at the same time? I mean, that's not a problem for curl, but how do you display it in the progress bar? So my plan there is to do the regular progress bar, add up all the numbers for all transfers, and possibly add a column for number of outstanding transfers. Something, perhaps. I don't know. So that's actually not a small job, so good to have that as a separate checkbox there. So about 6 outstanding things. Maybe just doing the internal refactorization that I already did was the biggest chunk of the work, so now it's more tweaking things. Well, I don't have any cursors or anything. I can't move the cursor around in the terminal. I can only start over the same line. So whatever progress bar I do, it has to be on a single line that updates. A single line for 48 transfers, or 148 transfers, or 700 transfers. And I actually think that most people wouldn't be happy with seeing each transfer independently anyway. So, well, that's room for fun bike shedding. But okay, back to me, and I'm going to not show you my display here now because I'm going to create a user. Or do I already have a user? I have an SCP test user. Yeah, that's going to be good. I'm going to set a password for my local SCP test user to be SCP test. And there's a 3 GB file there. I wonder if I can use that. If I do SSH to localhost. Yeah, that works, but can I do local? Let me show you what I'm doing now. Oops, wrong click there. So I do SCP test user local SCP. Can't type. SCP test. It works. So I'm logged in as, who am I? SCP test. Good. Because then I can go here again, check out, switch back to my wolfSSH branch. I wonder where I'm at with that. Just it's pretty tricky for sometimes going back and forth through the branches and what configure flags did I use or didn't I use and so on. So okay, the time is soon 12 and I actually spent 3 hours already soon on this and I didn't get very far, but it probably was an unusually boring stream this time. But anyway, I think I got a little bit along the way, and I'm not done yet, so I'm going to continue this and see how far I can get. I'm probably going to do another stream tomorrow again. I'm going to do some other things. A friend of me told me he's in Stockholm this afternoon, so I'm probably going to head into the city and have a coffee and then be back this afternoon, do some stuff, and then go back to do more wolfSSH hacking tomorrow morning. So let's do the stream again tomorrow morning. I think the same time as I did today. Yeah, and by then I'll get another round on the parallel transfers too. So we could also, maybe I could do some parallel transfer stuff. That's actually sometimes more productive perhaps because it gets more things moving. And now I'm going to take off and have a lunch. So tomorrow at 9 a.m. my time, that is in 21 hours, I'll be back. And until then, have fun and have some lunch, you too. And see you tomorrow.